Ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Not That Bad, a movie podcast, the podcast where we take contested movies and we tell you why they're not that bad. Today we have a very special episode because today is our Christmas special. We are covering a very important movie today, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But right now, let's make our introductions. I am one of your hosts. My name is Connor, aka one of the guys evil Santa bullies in this movie. And I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, Mr. Gabe Tice. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Connor. I'm not only in the Christmas spirit, I'm in the Chris Farley spirit because I'm wearing a hat that says Chris Farley for president.
I dig it. I dig it a lot.
That was my Christmas present to myself this year.
Hey, look, it's important to treat yourself too, especially with things that aren't on the list for the family and
Yeah.
the friends. So I
Let
dig
me just
it.
say this. This is something I'm really passionate about. Put the Chris back in Christmas, okay?
It's specifically with Chris Farley, or
I mean, how many bad Chris's can you think of? I guess we
yeah,
can probably
that's
think of a couple bad ones, but just in general, I would like to celebrate Christmas with Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth. Um, Chris Pratt is shaky. We don't have to.
on the fence. This is already going off the rails. I'm so excited. All right. Well, the reason that we're so happy and we're in the Christmas spirit and we are just full of cheer, holiday cheer, is because we are going to be covering a movie that I think both of us have been waiting for a long time. Because this is just one that just invokes this happy feeling for so many, but for a lot, it also invokes some terrible feelings. We're going to be what are we going to be covering today? I'm going to let you introduce the title here.
We're covering one of the most underappreciated and underrated Christmas classics. Yeah, I'm gonna use the word classic.
Classics. Hell yeah.
2005's Santa's Sleigh. This is it's actually quite hard to categorize. A lot of people call it horror, but I don't think that's accurate. It's an ultra violent um sort of holiday themed movie about a Santa that is going on a killing spree because he has gone out of this bet he had made with an angel. Um, because the Santa that we know, the one that gives presents to kids, that was actually against his will, and now
Yes.
the evil bastard is allowed to slaughter the innocent once again, and only a small town kid and his quirky, slightly neurotic grandfather can stop him. And this is so important, and this is a huge reason why I bet Connor wanted to talk about this. That Santa is played by none other than WWE star Bill. Well, what's his name? Bill
Bill
Goldberg.
Goldberg.
Yeah,
Bill Goldberg, yes. As my illustrious co-host alluded to, released in 2005. This was just after his WWE run had wrapped up after a fruitful career in World Championship Wrestling, which went out of business in 2001. This movie is special in a lot of ways, man. But one of the ways is that people don't seem to like it. Fun fact: it's got an alternate title, which is Very Bad Santa, which I thought was kind of funny to play off of the Bad Santa title from around this same time. But like we've alluded to, of course, if a movie's coming on this show, it's got some problems and it's got some haters. And in this case, this film's not as hated as it could be. We've had lower rated on the show before, but it's at a 2.6 on Letterboxd, and there's some users on there that have some interesting feelings about this movie. I'd like to get into some of those. Um, and I'd like to talk about the movie a little bit afterwards. So getting into the reviews, we have a review from Dirk H on Letterboxd, 1 star review, in which Dirk says, "I was going to try and write up something clever and funny about this festive fuck up. I just can't be arsed to do it. It has Santa shooting fireballs from his mouth, and as cool as that sounds, it really isn't." We also have another 1 star review from Zach on Letterboxd, who states, "I wanted to turn this movie off after the first scene, and I'm mad at myself for wasting my time. Santa did not come to slay, unfortunately. He is lip syncing for his life, honey. Now, sashay away. Finally, we have a half-star review from Maggie on Letterboxd, who states, "I think everyone who was involved with the making of this film should be executed by firing squad." Uh, Clearly, there's some strong opinions about this movie from some folks, including the ones that we've heard from so far. But one of those reviews highlighted something that we're going to just dive right into to get into the conversation of this, and that's the opening scene. This movie opens up in a way that I just think is extremely fun and interesting. And by the way, for anybody that's returning, we are going to be doing something a little different with this show today, so bear with us. We're going to be having a lot of fun talking about this one. But Gabe, I guess starting off, dude, this opening is fucking insane, is it not?
What the hell is James Caan doing here?
Dude, the first thing I wrote was, why the
What
fuck
is
is Jimmy Caan in this?
Academy Award nominee Jimmy Caan
Yep.
doing in Santa's Sleigh? He had just been in another Christmas classic, albeit a more widely praised one, Elf, and I guess he wanted to keep that gravy train going. He's only in this one
Dude.
scene, which is smart, right? They don't have to pay him as much. You get that. This movie's front loaded with star power. You got him, Fran Drescher, us nanny
Yeah.
fans. It was really cool to
Yeah.
see her.
Yeah.
Then Chris Kattan for that, mid '90s SNL magic. Hello, Chris Farley. Um, so you have this like really wonderfully dysfunctional family. I mean, it's just like the pits in this household. They're spoiled. Everybody's sleeping with each other. The
Oh my
patriarch of
God.
the household is ready to commit murder. Literally, he's holding up a knife. But before he can murder, who comes in but Chris Kringle himself, Santa Claus, bursting out of the chimney like the Kool-Aid Man.
Yes.
Um, and before anybody can process the fact that Santa Claus is indeed alive and standing in front of them, he starts kicking their asses. I mean, he throws down. Um, and I
After
wish I could.
kicking a dog, after kicking their little dog.
That's the first thing. So you know that Santa is evil. Because to be honest, these rich bastards were so intolerable that I was still rooting for Santa.
Yeah, I thought this was gonna be just like that new Violent Night movie that just came out
Exactly.
recently.
And it's actually amazing that we're talking about this because I haven't seen Violent Night yet, but I think it's pretty clear that this movie does share some things, share
Yep. Yeah, I'll
some
be sharing.
characteristics.
I'll be watching Violent Night very soon when we are recording this episode. So, yeah, man, it shares a lot, but also shares a little bit with like movies have parodied this forever about like if Santa Claus was like in a battle or if Santa Claus was evil. It's things that have been alluded to in media, but
Sure.
man, it's hard with this opening scene, man, because it's already just absolutely batshit hilarious. First of all, I had two questions, burning questions, as soon as I started watching this movie. And the first off was, why the fuck is Jimmy Caan in this? And the second one was, did Corky Romano just finger the nanny? Because I'm pretty sure that happens on screen. Am I crazy, or did that happen?
I
Because I
don't think
feel like this
he,
whole thing was a fever dream.
yeah, she she was excited about something at that table.
Dude, I
Um,
don't know what was
she might
going
have
on
just
there.
been she might have just been, consumed with the magic of Christmas.
Hey, or the magic of Chris Kattan and his fingers. But
Oh no.
dude, I can't believe I just saw Mango get get freaky with Fran Drescher on screen. But no, like man, like the opening scene I think sets this tone that I personally see carried throughout most of the movie. It makes you laugh. It's over the top. There's definitely it invokes the horror genre in ways, and it seems to enjoy the idea of being a horror movie, but it also just embraces this just ridiculous nature. I mean, he literally says he Fran Drescher does the laugh and everything.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely insane.
This movie's not as sleazy or violent as I was expecting. I think people will probably expect almost like a trauma level, like gore fest. It'll be gross, maybe raunchy, and I think this movie isn't shy or reserved in those departments for sure. But especially past that scene, it actually becomes much more story driven, mythological even.
Yeah.
It was like it became a genuine action film. Uh it was more it more reminded me of those over the top 80s action movies than like horror or the type of movie I think we expected it to be.
Yeah, it's funny because like there's like a duality to the marketing of this film because
Yeah.
if you look at most of the posters and everything when it comes to this movie, you see this big evil edited face of Bill Goldberg holding an icicle in his hand and he's gonna stab you and he looks mean and menacing. And then there's another side of it which has this very fun 2005 like devil font and he's like hanging upside down from a fireplace and it's very much very comedic and I think part of what I think the disappointment might have been because one of the complaints that I saw throughout reading some reviews was that this movie wasn't quite gory enough for horror
Mm.
fans was that it seemingly marketed as a horror movie when it came out in 2005 and
Yeah.
moving forward streaming services and everything I mean look at do a Google image search and see how many different streaming sites or movie sites have the more horror centric posters and images about this movie. It's kind of crazy to see how it was marketed because it's clear to me when watching it that it is a fun, low budget, schlocky, just like action comedy with some horror elements. And
Schlocky,
it,
but not it's not just it's not just trying to be schlocky.
no, right.
No.
It's got elements of schlock, but it is not
Okay, this
pure
is
schlock.
for me, a reason I was is excited to watch it is I have this family friend who he actually introduced me to horror movies.
Oh,
He's a professor of folklore. He has great highbrow taste. He does love the trashy side of things,
yeah.
but he never likes things that just have no interest in being anything but trash. So he recommended this to me enthusiastically. I was like, what does he see in Santa's sleigh? Um, to to satisfy his more cerebral taste. And I think what I took away from this is the really brilliant reinvention of the Santa mythos. You know,
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I wanted to talk to for sure, or talk about rather for sure, is the story I think is batshit insane, but it's quite interesting, man. Like first off, like the mythos of Santa Claus and the idea that he is what the son of Satan who loses a bet
Mm.
with an angel, and now I'm gonna get to why that's ridiculous in a second. I know right now it sounds kind of fine if you've never seen this movie, but hang tight. But it's an interesting idea for this evil figure to lose and have to be good. Like he's being forced to be good. Why that could not last forever, I don't know. Why did it have an expiration date for a murderous spawn of Satan? I don't know.
I guess
However,
the thought is Santa wouldn't agree to a deal that would make him be good forever. That
right, there needed
I
to be
guess it's my
some.
only thing. I mean, the real answer is because then we wouldn't have a movie.
Right,
But
exactly, yes. In the
and you,
mythos, I'm agreeing with
yeah.
you in
Well,
that regard.
it does harken back to, it does seem like a genuine classic folklore story, but like Grimm Brothers folklore, where it was super fucked up, like hella
Oh
dark,
yeah.
um, dark humor. It was just that being the foundation of this whole thing. To me, it already elevates it, and I'm already like fascinated. Like, where's this gonna go? Because it I was expecting them to just kind of use that as the background, but it is part of the premise. Like the way the story plays out, it all of that mythos is extremely important.
Yes, it's extremely important, but there is one element that is extremely important and central to the story that I just think takes this story from interesting to batshit interesting, and it is the fact that the bet was over a curling game.
A curling game.
They try to see who can get their little curling whatever to closest to the hole in the ice, where Santa was using using elves, me being one of them according to my name today, to fish in the ice, and he told Santa he's got to be good until for what 1,000 years, and
Yeah.
after 1,000 years, and it's 1,000 years to the day, he can stop being good. Um, what do you think about this whole curling game stuff, man? Because honestly, like even now, I've seen this film before, but even watching it this time around, I'm
It
laughing my
was
ass off.
it was hilarious. And it is hilarious in a way that people are not giving enough credit for. I mean, this is witty,
Hmm.
clever stuff.
Right.
Um, like, oh my God. And and the claymation sequence where this whole origin story is
What the
depicted.
fuck is that about? Dude, it's great, but where the fuck did it come from?
Well, I mean, it's like Frosty the Snowman or
It
Rudolph
is.
the Red-Nosed
It looks
Reindeer.
just like that shit, man.
It's brilliant. And then the way they bring it back, man, because the climax takes place on an ice rink, and then, not to
Yes.
spoil it, but there's going to be round two of this bet. I'm thinking like, no, how are they gonna? And then Santa steps on the ice, it makes a little red crack, and then oh my God, there's a hellhole in the middle of the ice rink.
Yes, literal hole to hell. And there's a few things that I take note of, and we'll get to the ending of the movie, but there's a few things that I want to take note of about the movie as we progress along. First of all, the film takes place in Hell Township in Canada. Uh, so the town's name is quite literally Hell, because because apparently the angel, who we'll get into him later, but but he claimed that he moved his family there because he knew that Santa would go to hell and back to try to find him. That is a literal line that is in this movie, and it is fucking incredible. Yes, it takes place in Canada, so it makes sense why there's an ice rink there, and in the school, because there's a chase sequence in the school, and Hell is the name of the town. One of the things that I want to get into though before we kind of progress through the film is the characters. We're introduced to
Sure.
this cast of characters. We have our main character and his grandfather. We have his little girlfriend slash friend. In
His
her
girlfriend
name, she
slash friend.
yeah,
What?
she's got a name in this movie, but they call her Mac throughout the film.
Uh,
I actually really quite like her. I think she's my favorite character in the film, personally, at least, besides, Santa Goldberg. Uh, but we're introduced to this kind of interesting small cast of characters. It's very contained. We have a few stragglers outside that make appearances here and there. The preacher, the man that owns the shop that they work at. But what do we think about our main cast of characters here?
So I will say I think the characters are where the film is most uneven. Now let me say that there are some great characters. First off, Bill Goldberg as Santa. I don't watch
God.
wrestling. I don't. I have no knowledge of who Bill Goldberg is really outside of this movie. But I'm intrigued enough to even watch one of his wrestling matches because the charisma he brought to this role and the fun that he was having. I mean, we've seen plenty of wrestlers in movies, and some have gone on to have successful careers. The
Yeah.
Rock, John Cena. But when you pop in a movie like Santa's Slay, you don't expect that Bill Goldberg is going to turn in, a career of a lifetime performance, but he does. He does, and he was. Anytime he was on screen, I was just like absolutely digging this movie. Then you have our main character who, unfortunately, I can't remember his name, and I think that is a testament to the fact that he's not particularly memorable. He verges on having that everyman likability that I think that sounds like
Just
a
the way
harsh
you shit on this guy. His name is Nicholas.
Nick.
Nicholas Yulson.
Oh, like Saint Nicholas. That's awesome.
Yes, Nicholas
Um,
Yulson. Get it? Yule, son.
uh, um, I think the thing about him is that the relationship he had with that girl was really confusing. So when
Hmm.
they work together and they're friendly, but the very first conversation they have, she says to him, "You're never going to get me." And then for the rest of the movie, she absolutely throws herself at him.
Well, I know that was a little confusing, but they were more so referencing the getting him with this because he tries to get her
Oh,
with that. I know. I was the first time I watched
oh
this, I thought the
no,
same
I didn't.
thing. Most recently, I did catch it. I didn't catch it the first time though. It's very because it's very quick. It happens very quickly, and
And it's in this wide shot.
yes,
Like there's no close up on his hand. That was okay. See, there are some janky moments here or there when it comes to
yes.
character development because that really threw me for a loop for
Well,
most
and
of the
when it
movie.
comes to production too, I mean, let's be
Yeah,
honest. This movie does not have the biggest budget in the world, so there's some snafus
yeah.
here and there.
That being said, we'll get into some of these set pieces. I'm sure I mean, the money was well spent on the Santa scenes. I'll put it that way.
I think so too. Yeah.
But and then there's like an interesting dichotomy with this girl and him. Like she is super into guns, or her family is into guns and into
Yes.
hunting, which might lead you to think this might be in America, but no, it's in Canada.
Yeah, she's got those Canadian redneck parents, you know. Those do
Yeah,
exist, by the way.
they do, and it's so funny. Like when people talk about like guns in America, like people seem to think that we're the only country that has lots of guns. But no, like Canada is actually a very gun happy place. The difference is the kind of guns they allow to be sold and stuff. Like, those guys up there have hunting rifles and shotguns and things like that.
Yeah, Canada's very similar to us in a lot of ways down here in the States because, that
Mhm.
even like patriotism is very big in Canada and,
Sure. Yeah.
things
No,
they
we're
have
not
a lot
so
of the same
different.
values.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you could assume this movie takes place in America, other than the ice rink at the end, which wouldn't be a
Yeah,
stretch. It,
absolutely.
yeah, nothing culturally different about that. But anyways, I'd say my second favorite character, and I imagine you'll agree with this, is the grandfather, the kooky grandfather who turns out to have quite the backstory.
He does turn out to have quite the backstory. I kind of got scared when we were introduced to this grandfather character because a lot of low budget movies that introduce the crazy, grandfather that's actually kind of a genius, they go the Doc Brown route, and it's very thinly veiled as like this guy's supposed to be Doc Brown. He just you can't say it. And like I was kind of upset that they were gonna go because his look is very much like that feels like that's what it's channeling. But as the movie goes along, you could never predict where you could predict it, but if you had never seen the film before and you were just given a picture of that grandpa, you would never think that it was going to go the route that it does. Watching the movie, that's very different. But I do quite like Robert Culp as the grandfather character. I think
Hmm.
he does a pretty good. I think he does a pretty good job. There's some scenes that I don't think he is perfect in, but I also think that's just the nature of the beast when you make a low budget film. To be honest with you, there's not every performance is gonna be primo. Not every line is gonna be delivered with the best inflection. I don't know.
Now, my third favorite character has got to be the naughty priest.
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. In my hierarchy, it goes Goldberg, Santa Claus, Mac, Grandpa, Dirty Man, Priest.
Now, Mac is fourth for me for.
Mac is that's fair. That's fair. And not everybody's gonna resonate with Mac. I kind of like the character overall.
I
So
would say I think it's very cool that it's the chick that's super into guns and the guy that's, what would you call him, a pacifist? Although
just
he's
some would
probably.
say a pussy. Some would. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Whoa.
No, I'm
Oh
joking. I'm joking.
boy.
I know how that
All
sounds, but
right.
I'm joking. I'm joking. No, no,
I'm
you're right.
gonna
Yeah,
destroy
he's
you
much
with
more.
facts and logic, son, if you don't watch out.
With facts and logic, watch out. No, in all seriousness, though, he's much more reserved with that stuff. Like she hands him a transformer toy that's a gun, and he's like upset about it at one point because are you crazy? Why would you give me a gun? So that gives you
He
their
doesn't know it's a transformer. He thinks she gave
yes,
him a gun.
yes.
Because it looks like a gun. And by the way, is he supposed to play with that? Transformer, it's
You know,
crucified. When you open it up, it's just crucified.
yeah, I don't know what the point of that was. I don't know, maybe it was just to set up a character moment. That's my guess. It just seemed very strange. I don't know.
Yeah. No, their relationship to me, it was just like a big question mark throughout.
Yeah, I'll definitely feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, am I watching this for the romance of the century? No, I'm
For a
watching Santa
fucking
Slay to see
killer
Santa
Santa
Slay.
Claus.
Exactly. Now let's talk about this, and I imagine this is controversial. They get Bill Goldberg, and they really embrace his wrestling background. So this Santa is like Kung Fu Santa, WWE Santa. I think people might be disappointed that they took that direction because he's mystical, but he doesn't fight like he's mystical. He just fights like he's Bill Goldberg. Um,
Yeah. There's a lot, you know what? There's a lot of interesting shit about this Santa Claus character. First off, I started to think while watching it that Bill Goldberg was not the first choice when they were writing this because they keep calling him Fat Boy, and he's not fat. He's not remotely fat. He's clearly jacked as all fucking hell. But truthfully, for me, and look, I'm not the right person to talk about this. I'm very biased. I am a huge professional wrestling fan. I have been my whole life, and so I grew up watching Goldberg. That being said, uh, the wrestling stuff is fucking amazing. For me, it's just he's kicking the shit out of people. His signature move as a wrestler is the spear, and he quite literally does that in the movie when he jumps through the glass and
yeah,
and hits the guy against the wall. Incredible for me. There's a few moments where like the score kind of plays segments of his theme song. It implements sections of his wrestling theme song, which I thought was super fucking cool. And yeah, man, like I just like he brings the physical presence that I think is important for the role and what they're going for. But I like that they implemented some of that wrestling stuff to kind of throw him a bone. Like, hey, if you're bringing this to the movie, we're gonna let you bring everything that you can bring. And I think he did. And by the way, this is absolutely his best film performance. Having seen
I am
him,
too.
well, he's I think he's pretty decent in The Longest Yard uh, with Adam Sandler, but Half Past Dead 2 is not anybody's finest work. That being said, it sounded like you were going to say that you quite enjoyed some of these elements of Santa Goldberg.
I especially enjoyed it in the first scene because Santa comes onto the stage and you don't know what this guy is capable of.
You don't know
And
shit
it
about
was
this
like,
guy.
I don't know if have you seen Scrooged, the Bill Murray movie?
It is one of my favorite Christmas movies. Yes.
Absolutely, it's easily top five for me.
Oh, easily.
So, Bill Murray works at a television network. They're doing all these really schlocky Christmas movies.
Yep.
One of them is like Santa is very violent night. Santa
Yeah.
versus this armed militia.
With Lee
So
Majors.
this movie feels like a movie that Bill Murray's network would have produced from
This is an
Scrooge.
IBC original.
Exactly. Which is
Oh,
incredible that we have one of those in real life.
yes.
Uh,
Well,
no,
Violent Night is very much like that now.
exactly. And I think I hope that the people who made Violent Night have seen Santa Slay and
Oh, I hope so. I
respect what came
really
before
hope
it.
so. I really hope so. And I hope they've seen Scrooge so that they can see what a very violent night looks like on that side.
Everybody should see Scrooged. Okay, I don't care who
Everyone.
you are.
Yes. Everyone
Yeah,
should see Santa Sleigh too. Hopefully we'll convince you by the end of this.
right. Um, No, I think people. I can imagine why some people would roll their eyes and say, "Oh my God, they got a wrestler, so now he's just, throwing tables at people and shit." Um, I really enjoyed the physicality of his performance, and there's just this general thing with this Santa where he's a beast. He
Yeah.
instead of a bunch of reindeer, he has this one wildebeest or some shit that pulls him around.
Yeah, they call it a reindeer at the end, but it's clearly like this big flying buffalo thing.
It ain't no
Like,
Prancer or
no,
Dancer. Okay.
no, this is a fucking beast.
Yeah. Um, I would have to say my favorite Santa sequence here. is the strip club, and I think we gotta address that. We gotta single that scene out.
We do. We got to talk about the strip club. First off, big props to Bill Goldberg because he actually met his future wife, who was one of the strippers in this strip club scene. So good for Bill. He now has a son with this woman. So congratulations for meeting your wife on Santa's sleigh.
Hey, mom,
But
dad, how did you guys meet? We met.
Dude, I thought the same thing. But hey, I'm not saying nothing. I
No
have
judgment. Bill
yeah,
Goldberg,
no
you rock.
judgment.
All
And
right.
plus, Bill Goldberg, former wrestler and professional football player, actor, everything, definitely a scary man. So even if I did have feelings about it, I wouldn't say them. But I don't. Let's make that clear, Billy. But with that, dude, this scene is insane. First off, we see the seeds planted before this in the church scene. Where
Mhm.
we see the pastor kind of talking, and he talks about donations, and he's taking donations. Don't give your coins to the Lord. Give your bills. Give your big bills so that we can help the needy. And then he takes those bills down to the strip club, and he's gonna throw them bills at the strippers there. And that's how we're introduced to Billy Boy, Billy Goldberg coming in here. And dude, this scene is insane. First of all, he walks through the doors and goes ho ho ho's and just starts macking on one of the strippers, and then just lets her go, which
Well,
is
because they were under
already
the
a great way to
mistletoe.
set they
It
were under the mistletoe. He did point to the mistletoe.
not
Uh,
harassment if it's under a mistletoe.
yes.
So says Santa's sleigh, which maybe helps illuminate why some people uh will not take to this movie.
But dude, like everything about this scene is, I feel like, why they didn't go too violent, because they had to put some titties in there, and they do. And it's not much, but it's enough for you to be like, yeah, they put it in here. Let's be real, this is all about us being introduced to the idea that he is not just killing everyone, he's killing naughty and he's killing nice. And this is the idea of him coming into the strip club. He's going to kill the naughty, and he's going to, kill the nice. And dude, this is like, okay, there's literally a part in this sequence. First off, they waste no time. He makes out with this girl, lets her go, and security goes for him, and the fight ensues within seconds of him walking into this place. Um, and at one point, he quite literally uses the legs of a chair to disarm two security guards, and then uses said chair to then jump on top of them, kip up onto the table, and then jump off to fuck somebody up. Dude, that might be the coolest fucking thing I have ever seen in my
I
life.
think this movie was made for you, is what you're saying.
Yes. This was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think the stuff I appreciate more is like there's a lot of funny shit going on in that scene. I mean,
Hmm.
there's inherent comedy to seeing Santa, belly slam bouncers or whatever. But my favorite moment of this whole movie is he needs a weapon, so he's gonna grab one of the poles.
Oh
But
my god.
first he disinfects it because even
Yes.
Santa ain't touching that shit without,
He scoffs at it. Like, he reaches for it and he goes, ugh. And then he cleans it.
grabs a Kleenex out of nowhere. I guess it
Yes.
was in his magic sack of
And
goodies.
where does he pull the fucking spray from?
It's his sack of magic goodies, man. It's the same thing where he pulls out grenades and all of
Oh
that.
my God. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he absolutely does. I mean, look, like, what better way to fucking utilize Santa Claus for him to just have a sack full of goodies, which includes cleaning equipment to clean off a stripper pole, to then use said stripper pole as a weapon to kill security guards at a strip club. Um, Dude, this is fucking awesome. Uh, Now I gotta ask you. There's one part of this that I always have found interesting, and it's that he just says fuck it and kills everybody. Like, he kills the security guards and stuff, and the preacher gets out and he escapes or whatever. But the strippers are all like terrified and clearly not fighting him, and he just pulls out like a Molotov cocktail and just sets the whole place on fire, which leads to a hilarious scene of the preacher reading out the names of the strippers that passed
Eulogizing
away in the
all the,
fire,
yeah, fallen
um,
strippers.
which includes Testicle, which just chef's kiss, incredible. So I guess the whole scene as a whole, I'm guessing for you, net win for the movie, net positive.
I think it's kind of like I think it's probably the reason they made this movie was so they could put that scene in there.
He thought of that scene. Maybe they had a dream about it, and then
Yeah,
they were like,
it's
"Let's
like
just make a movie around it. Let's write a story. Curling's involved. I don't know.
it's
Go
the
with it."
whole. I mean, it's funny because it's the least plot relevant, but um, it's the best Santa stuff because you want to see the Santa go on a massacre. You want to see the full display of this man's evil, his power, um, and you want it to be both funny and pretty frightening. And after all of this funny stuff, it was kind of like disturbing to me to just see him burn the whole place down.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's used for comedy later, but in that moment, he's like a truly scary Santa. So I appreciate the tonal balance they were going for. It's a really delicate tightrope walk. Not
yeah.
everybody's gonna care for it. Some people say it went too far. Some people say it didn't go far enough. For me, I was already with the movie, so it's like, cool, man, give me some more of this. Um,
Agreed. And I think we do
that
have to
went,
talk about some of the Santa kills. I mean, like, because there's some cool shit in this movie. I think it is like by today's standards for movies like this, it's very tame.
mhm.
It's there's not a whole ton of blood. It's not squirting everywhere. There's not a ton of gore and you know over the top shit like you'd see in like a Terrifier film. Although I'm not saying that would have hurt the film. It might have
Well,
helped.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
I think it would have hurt the
that
comedic
would
tone
have been a
overall.
distraction uh from the story.
I agree. I agree. I think it would have. I do like how this plays out. I will say there's one kill that I do take issue with though, um, and it's not because of how it happens. In fact, I think it's quite hilarious how it happens. But it's more so that I just don't understand how the fucker survives it for so long. Do you know what I'm gonna reference here? The guy that owns the shop
Yeah.
gets killed via menorah through the throat. He gets impaled on the wall, and as our main character is trying to take him down from this wall, you know, he sees his boss and sort of mentor figure pinned to the wall via menorah. Uh, the guy wakes up to give us some exposition before
Yeah.
he dies. What the
Yeah.
fuck is
It
this,
was the
dude?
spirit of Hanukkah,
The spirit of Hanukkah kept him
yeah.
alive.
Which, by the way, I was wondering if they were going to address that. Christian versus Jewish. So Santa kills that guy, but then he run into some Orthodox Jews and he just gives them a mean look.
You know, they did something too that I don't understand the deliberate nature of, and while Santa's coming in there to kill this Jewish man, he flashes his Star of David necklace, and you see it shine on Santa's face, and he kind of like winces at it for a second,
Mhm.
and I don't know why they put that in there. I can't wrap my head around it because it doesn't come back at all. And I don't know if we were supposed to assume that it's like, you know, touching a cross to a vampire or if it was just in
Well, it
there
was
to
a
just be
holy
like
symbol, I think, is the idea.
so
And
okay,
he's
so
and he's
that
the
makes sense then, but
Antichrist.
you think it would like protect or you know something for them to make it so deliberate, but I don't know. I wish they would have done more, but I was just thinking like I was too busy just worried about how this fucker survived. What happened to him? He was stapled to a wall with a menorah through his neck.
Yeah. Um, no, this movie isn't exactly a documentary. Maybe not
No.
everything portrayed here is
That's
totally
well,
accurate.
yes, well, to say the least, right?
Yeah. Um, no, there's like a ton of insane shit here. I mean, first off, our main hero should have died many, many times. I mean, he's been grenaded at
Oh
many
my God.
times by the the time they get to the climax. Um, but then again, he has holy blood in him. I don't know how that works. I wish they'd expanded upon that. I thought he was going to become like a fucking superhero, like Archangel.
Yes, I guess we need to get to that real quick.
Yeah,
I
me
guess we
too.
need to really kind of explain what's so crazy about this movie. Is that they tease this story and they tell the story and they give you all these visuals and stuff, and then it turns out that the grandfather, the crazy town kook who everybody makes fun of, is the angel that that won that won the bet against Santa Claus 1,000 years ago and gave up his mortality to marry a human woman that he met, and start a family in Hell Township in Canada. Um, God, I'm gonna pass it to you here.
As it to
Bold
be, oh my
strategy,
God, no, this is like, I
bold
don't want
strategy.
this.
I think I'm gonna throw it at you here. Just gonna toss. Or you know what? I'm gonna chantel. I'm a chantel. I'm gonna channel Goldberg Santa here, and I'm gonna shoot a fireball of it at you from my mouth here.
Well, I'm gonna fire a nutcracker
Oh, damn it!
you. Yeah,
All
so
right, I guess I gotta talk
nutcracker
about it here.
beats fireball every time.
It
Um,
does.
the twist itself is cool. The way the scene plays out, I have a, I have a few comments. I have a few notes, let's say.
Got
If
studio notes from
if this
Gabe.
was, if I was the producer or something, I would have had notes. Um, I don't know. So it's revealed that this grandpa is the angel who cursed Santa. Santa's been on a revenge path. By the way, I do want to say this. I actually do like the twist because it gives Santa motivation. Because for a long time, I was wondering, so is this Santa just killing randomly,
Yeah,
indiscriminately? What's he even doing in this town? I thought the movie could have used a motivation for him, and then hey, turns out they did. So very good writing. Um, the way they deal with Santa, the way he's dispatched of, shaky writing. Um, the Joey, why did I almost call him Joey? He looks like a Joey to me. Nicholas was given a projectile nutcracker weapon.
yep. That he, by
So
the way, that he almost like kills them both with at the beginning
yeah,
of the movie, and then almost lets Mac kill herself with it when she points it right at her face. But continue.
yeah. So Santa and Grandpa did this rematch of the curling game.
Yeah,
The
and
take
this time it's forever.
Yeah, this time it's forever, which it should have been in the first place, but whatever. But
Movie had to
Santa
happen.
cheated, the bastard, and
Yep.
he threw Grandpa down the hellhole. He's ready to kill Nicholas. But Nicholas counters with a nutcracker device, which, the Santa has been bursting through walls and could give Jason Voorhees a run for his money, but that nutcracker thing really takes him out. It's like his maybe the idea is that he has a weakness for Christmas weapons. I don't know.
I think that's the idea of it. It's very poorly explained. Like I wish we would have gotten an explanation as to
Sure.
why it was built. I know that they tried to be very, you know, sort of secretive about the fact that this nutcracker was going to be the reason that they stop it, but you could see it coming a mile away that it was going to factor into the end of the movie. So just explain why, because even though he's not dead, which we'll get to, which by the way, make a damn sequel, please. Okay, he technically didn't lose the match. Okay, so make a sequel. Anyways, um, I just some kind of explanation would have helped us understand why this stops him, because you're right. I mean, he's there's a lot of scenes in this that you just think like, okay, uh, he can do anything. I mean, he can just do absolutely anything, and he'll be totally fine. And then a little nutcracker toy stops him. Mm, I don't know. Um,
It is what it is, as they
it
say,
is what it is.
as the wise folks say. Um, yeah, it's just a little awkward. It's
Yeah.
fine. It's nothing offensive, like, oh my God, you totally lost me. But for
Uh,
me, that it devolves even more because Santa has kept the naughty priest hostage, and the naughty priest is wearing a Santa outfit. So Santa
yeah.
is trying to flee in the skies, and Nicholas gets Max, gun-toting family to shoot at him and bring him down, Jack Skellington style. And then and then everybody races over to the fallen sleigh and they see, oh my God, it was the naughty priest all along. But Nicholas and Max surely know that that must be a decoy thing, that the real Santa, it's a setup. They must know that, right? But no, Nick just cares about finally getting to the girl that was throwing herself at him for the whole movie. And then the real Santa is flying back to the North Pole.
Dude, I laughed so hard. I know that it was probably for most people, it's like a roll your eyes moment, but when he corrected her after calls him Satan and he says actually it's Shaitan, I laughed my fucking ass off. I thought that was so funny. I thought it was absolutely hilarious that he was flying to an airport in the North Pole because that exists. And dude, just when I thought the movie was done being fucking incredible, it outdoes itself and gives us that short little snippet of a scene. Just amazing. Just so great. And it doesn't even end there too. Like the credits of the movie have like X's and check marks for like basically like the naughty and nice list, checking it over and killing all the naughty and nice children. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, I just want to highlight something that I noticed this watch. They talk about the kids and stuff, and there's this scene that they show of these kids with their family, and the kids they're like, okay, I could just hear the writers meeting where they're just like, all right, how do we get across that these kids are fucking assholes? And so what they do is one of the kids quite literally says, "Can we open the motherfucking presents now? Can we open the motherfucking presents now?" Incredible. That whole sequence is incredible, and the fact that we get callbacks at the end in the credits to the whole naughty nice killing both sides thing, great. It doesn't stop being great.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's like if you're with the movie, that stuff's gonna be just really funny. It's just gonna be one of it's very people forget this about the original Black Christmas, but it's a very dark, very tense, very disturbing movie, but so funny.
Yes.
And it uses crassness and vulgarity a lot. Um, and now it's a classic. Now it's very prestigious. So I think people kind of like sort of forget that.
Mm-hmm.
I see moments like that. Like, can we open our motherfucking presents now? Continuing that proud tradition of sleazy, but
Shit.
ultimately like good natured,
Whew.
violent holiday slashers. I guess this is a slasher. It feels weird to call it that.
Yeah, I mean, no, well, like, non-horror films can be slashers too, and I think this very much invokes a lot of horror elements. I mean, like, in what action movie have you seen somebody, take an icicle and kill somebody with it? What? There's so many scenes in this that just invoke the horror genre, even if it's played for comedic effect. So yeah, I would agree. This is a Santa slasher film, and it's now I guess so. We've talked a lot about the movie as a whole, story elements, characters, and things. But one of the complaints that I saw about this film was that it looks like a cheap movie. That it
What?
feels cheap, looks cheap. Now, is that something that you personally would agree with? Do you think this movie feels and looks incredibly cheap? Does it take away your enjoyment if that's the case?
No, does not look incredibly cheap. It looks cheap. Um, it, what do you want? What do you want them to say? Yeah, it was cheap. They didn't have a lot of money to make it. It's cheap.
Right.
That being said, they get big name actors. They do some pretty impressive set pieces. Not all the effects have aged super well. I can say that about X-Men and the first Spider-Man and all of that. So take it for what it is. No, it's not super cheap.
Yeah, it's funny when I'm watching it. I'm the I use a phrase because I like to watch a lot of low budget movies, and there's a phrase that I've sort of been using for years in watching these, and it's charmingly cheap. Some movies are just so charming with their cheapness, and this is one of those movies because they put, like you said earlier, and you alluded to this, they put the budget in the right spots. I think they made Santa look fucking great. His costume's great. His hair and beard are great. Neither of those were Bill Goldberg's, and you can't really tell unless you know who he is, which I think is really cool. But there are some scenes that do look pretty cheap. I mean, like the church set is just not good. The bunker, it looks horrible. There's some things that don't look great, but I think it adds so much charm to the movie. It's already over the top and comedic and so funny.
Mhm.
So funny by the time we see these things that I think it just adds so much charm to the movie. And I don't want to see this movie be a multi-million dollar release. I don't want to see it get a $100 million Marvel movie budget. It doesn't need that. It needs whatever they gave it for this, in my opinion.
I don't want to see this Santa fight the Avengers.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Although I'd see this Santa fight just about anybody, but I don't know that I need to see a
Well, I
high
don't need to
budget.
see him get the Avengers treatment.
No, exactly. Like we
Yeah.
don't need to see, a saga of these massive budget films for Bill Goldberg as a killer slasher Santa Claus. That's not what we need. What we need is fun moments, and I think this movie delivers a lot on that. While we were talking about the look, I did want to bring up a fun fact about this: is that the cinematographer of this film, Matthew F. Leonetti, is actually the brother of a familiar name for this show, John R. Leonetti, who was the cinematographer for two films that we've covered, which would be Child's Play 3 and Dead Silence.
Whoa, what a dynasty, dude.
Yeah, and he also directed the first Annabelle film and Mortal Kombat Annihilation. So this guy's got a great resume. In all seriousness, though, he like does have a great resume. Like he did the cinematography for the Insidious movies, the first two.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure
like
he has
he's a
great
great
resume as
cinematographer.
a
But
cinematographer for sure.
but this is his brother Matthew for this film. I don't think he does a terrible job for the budget he was given. This looks like a movie that came out in 2005. It looks similar to some of the
Yeah.
bigger budget movies as far as the look goes, in my opinion.
And you're not going to think that John Carpenter made this, but it's
Right.
quite competent. It's quite competent.
Exactly. Like, if you were to watch like Deck the Halls, which came out around this time, and this movie, the look of the films are similar. Obviously, Deck the Halls looks a lot more big budget when you look at like, the set pieces
But
and the
you know
places
that,
they're going, but
okay, I will say this. Deck the Halls is one of the most soulless movies I've ever seen. It's
oh, 100%. Yeah,
that
100%.
that dismal flat lighting that just, to me, that's what most Christmas movies look like. It just
Right.
like this movie actually embraces the color tone of Christmas much better. You got a healthy amount of green and reds here. It's shot like a horror movie at times.
Yeah.
They use shadows to give Santa a more sinister edge. I mean, it's not shooting for the stars in the
Right.
cinematography department. I mean, that's not the star of the show. The star of the show is the myriad of ways that Bill Goldberg can fuck you up. That's the star of the show.
Yes.
With many highlights throughout.
Yeah, completely agree there. There's a lot of things that this film is not going to be known for, and I think it's the things that I see so commonly as complaints for this. It's not going to be known for the incredible dialogue. It's not going to be known for the incredible acting performances. You're not expecting Santa Slay to be an Oscar nominated movie. You're just not expecting that because that's not what it's made for. So
Mhm.
when you watch a movie like this, I had some complaints about the acting at some parts. I mean, it gets pretty comical. There's a part where the grandfather gets run over by Santa's sleigh. Santa sleigh. He gets run over by the sleigh, and the Nicholas gives one of the worst, one of the most unintentionally funny uh, quips that I've ever heard. Where the way he says "Grandpa, no" is the funniest I have ever heard that line delivered. Um, so the acting is pretty atrocious at times, uh, but again, it's not the star of the show, and for me, it does not take away from it, and in some moments, it actually adds to the film. I'm curious to see if you fall into that same category. Or is this a complaint that you have along with the folks?
Really didn't have many complaints. I had complaints about the ending. Like I said, Nick just isn't. He's just not a great hero for me,
Yeah,
either on the page or with the performance. Um, and I can imagine like having like you think of Gremlins, and Billy from Gremlins really does draw you in. He really does take the movie to a new level because of how invested you get in his character.
right.
So no, it's not an A+ movie. I mean, this isn't. I mean,
Right.
it's a great time, but I mean, I call it a classic with a wink. And but the people who made this would agree with I think everything they're saying. It's a very self-aware movie, not in
Yep.
the Scream meta way. I mean, like they understood the quality, and they knew what their intentions were making this. So I'm happy to say it's not an incompetent movie, at least not in the important ways. Um, right. I mean, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to be a dick and call out some of the shoddy effects. It was a low budget movie from 2005. It's just a good time, and it's surprisingly not mean spirited. You brought up Terrifier, and I almost expected this to be Terrifier with Santa, and it's really not. I mean,
No.
it's got its moments, but it's
Yeah.
just not. It's funny. It's adventurous. It's a battle of good and evil. So, I mean, if you're tired of watching It's a Wonderful Life for the 100th time, then pop in Santa's Sleigh and it'll
Mary.
start with cheer.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, no, I'm not
Really?
gonna
A
go into
Jimmy
Jimmy
Stewart
Stewart.
impression?
No,
Really?
I'm not
Are
gonna
we
do it. I'm
going
not
there?
gonna do it. No, I'm not. No, 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 no. But yeah, that kind of leads us to our little final chapter of our discussion here. I think we dove into the movie as much as I think possible. I mean, this is not the deepest of films, and we dove in head first. So with brain damage and all from hitting the shallow floor of this film, I'd like to I'd like to get into our final verdicts here. I'd like to hear yours first of where you landed on the scale for those who are maybe catching us for the first time or kind of want a refresher. That's very unlikely since this is a Patreon special that we will be releasing much later. But if you are one of those
Yeah.
people, I do want to remind everybody out there we have a scale, so it is either that bad, not that bad, actually good, or actually great, which we have had one film reach from one of us before at the time of this episode. Mr. Tice, where are you going to land with Santa's Sleigh?
Yeah, I think with all of the really fun things that this movie has going for it, with all the times it actually surprised me with how much thought and care was put into it, it elevates it even beyond not that bad. But
Wow.
a lackluster main character and some holes in the logic that do start to it feels like crumbles a little bit by the end.
Right.
Does prevent it of breaking that glass ceiling and becoming a gremlins or anything like that. So I think it lands very solidly in that it's actually good. It's pretty good. Um, Christmas movies always have like a limited capacity of value for me because I only want to watch them once a year. But next Christmas, I can almost guarantee you I'll watch Santa's Sleigh. And for you folks out there, instead of just debating whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie, watch an actual action themed Christmas movie and try out Santa's Sleigh.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that verdict. Yeah, it's funny. My history with Santa Slay is very strange, and I watched it years ago because of Goldberg. I mean, I watched everything that he was in. I watched the Universal Soldier, The Return from 1999. I watched Half Past Dead 2. I suffered through that. The Longest Yard. And I was expecting this movie to just be awful. And the reason I watched it is just to make sure that I could check it off and tell people how terrible it was. And it was a very mean-spirited reason to watch this movie all those years ago. And when I did it, I was pleasantly surprised. And this viewing has just doubled down on that. I had such a fucking blast watching this. I laughed so many times. I laughed so hard throughout those times. And I just enjoyed myself, man. This is one of those movies that I feel like you just need to turn it on and enjoy yourself. And so for that reason and for so many more, I'm gonna agree with you here. I'm gonna say this is actually good. I was gonna say not that bad with an exclamation mark, but you know what? I really have to say that like this is one that I could picture turning on every year from this point forward as a yearly Christmas watch, along with the rest of the classics. This is a classic in a different way. This is one where you have fun. It might not be the best movie on every level, but you know what? It's a fucking great time. It is a laugh fest. Get together with your friends, grab some drinks, grab some snacks, have fun with it because I think that's what this movie was
Yeah,
designed
from
to do,
the
and I
St.
think it
Arnold's
accomplishes
Christmas
it
Ale.
beautifully.
Yes,
Yeah,
you can.
exactly, and I think that this movie, and you said it very well before we got into this, is that this movie is not incompetent, and I think I'll go that extra level to say it's extremely competent because it accomplishes exactly what it set out to do, and exactly what it set out to do was entertain people with a slasher film about a crazy buff killer Santa Claus, and that's exactly what they did for me at least. So
Yeah.
yeah, completely agree. I'm gonna put it in the actually good category, and this is I think one of the first times I think that we have agreed with the exact same rating since we started the show.
Maybe, maybe.
We'll
Uh,
have to look back at the record for that, but
yeah.
uh, we don't agree very often. We are always close,
Oh,
but I
well,
don't
I
think
mean, I think
we.
we're usually on the same side. Maybe
Yes,
not
just
literally the same verdict, but yeah.
right.
I mean, this is the sort of movie that both you and I can really enjoy. Um, and I'm super happy to defend it on this channel. There are a lot of great Christmas movies that we could have included here.
Oh
Hopefully,
yeah.
we'll visit those next year, right?
Yes.
Intent, with some collaborators. What the hell's so hard about that word? Jesus, too much Christmas ale. Um,
Oh man, got to slow it down there, buddy.
yeah. So, but for now, we have really had a blast talking about this
Yes.
hidden gem, really, of Christmas themed horror movies. And I hope people either go out and watch it for the first time or give it another chance. That's what we're here for. And if you're watching us on our Patreon, congratulations, you used your money wisely. But if you're watching
Yes.
this after we released it publicly, then we would love if you could show that Christmas spirit by supporting us on Patreon. We have a goal of reaching $100 a month in order to start putting out weekly content. That's a huge goal for us, and we would really love if you could help us get there. So we could keep doing this show that we love, and you could hear even more of this show that you've been listening to. So with that, Connor, I think it's time to take it away.
Yeah, and as we normally do at the end of the show, for those who are watching this outside of our Patreon, go over to that Patreon if you'd like to support us. We'd love to have you. Patreon.com/not that bad. Of course, I'm always the social plugger, so you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Not That Bad Pod, and Twitter at Not That Bad. M as in movie, P as in podcast. We got a lot of exciting things coming up. I think 2022 is a fantastic year for us so far. I'm happy to close it out with our last monthly special being Santa's Sleigh. But for those who are listening to this, later on, or those who are seeing it on Patreon, 2023 I think is going to be a fantastic year for the show, for us doing content like this. And how better would how much better would that be if you guys could help us reach our $100 goal, per month goal, to take this show weekly? For now, though, we're thrilled that you joined us today. I always throw it back to you for our closing remarks, so I'm going to throw it back to my good buddy and illustrious co-host, Mr. Gabe Tice, to close us out here. Thanks everybody for watching. And Gabe?
All right. Well, Merry Christmas, y'all. Happy holidays. 2022 was an interesting year, I think, for all of us, and I look forward to what 2023 has in store. But it's time to celebrate the year you've had and to enjoy your time with family, friends, and everybody who brings you joy and happiness, because that's what the holidays are all about. And just like we love to talk about the movies that bring us cheer and joy, we hope that you're going out there and surrounding yourself with the people that do the very same thing. So until next year, y'all, until 2023, I'm Gabe,
I am Connor.
and this is Not That Bad, signing out with a ho ho ho.
Oh, ho, ho.